Artificial sweeteners are very controversial. Can you tell me what effect aspartame has on the brain?
Yeah, yeah. Well, most of what I know about aspartame I got from this book, Excitotoxins, which we've pointed out before. Dr. Blaylock talks about the dangers of that, how monosodium glutamate, aspartame, and similar substances can cause harm to the brain and nervous system and their relationship to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's disease, and others. These are toxic neurotoxins. He calls it excitotoxins. And NutraSweet is a very common artificial sweetener that is made artificially in a lab by combining aspartic acid, which is the excitotoxin, and phenylalanine. And when it breaks down, they call it a dipeptide because it has two amino acids in it. But it breaks down at 86 degrees. Those two amino acids break apart at 85 or 86 degrees. And our body temperature is 98.6. So when we swallow cold NutraSweet, Diet Coke, or whatever, it's going to break down as it warms up. And in the breakdown process, now these amino acids are free amino acids, but it also generates one molecule of methanol, which is wood alcohol. And everybody knows wood alcohol is poison. Alcoholics who accidentally drink methanol instead of ethanol can go blind and destroy their kidneys, and probably the rest of the tissues in the body are harmed as well. So one molecule of methanol is emitted from every molecule of NutraSweet as the body warms the substance up.
So is it stored in the liver?
Well, it goes everywhere the bloodstream goes, so the methanol...
Okay, so then it's going to go to the brain.
Yeah, but the methanol breaks down into formaldehyde. So the process of methanol makes formic acid and methanol and even a known carcinogen. I can't remember the name of the carcinogen. Dr. Blaylock describes it in his book. And so those are toxic substances. Just to have a sweetener that doesn't have any calories. And so people drink Diet Coke thinking they're not going to get fat because there's no sugar in there. But it doesn't work anyway because it actually stimulates insulin, which drives the normal blood sugar down, which makes us feel famished and hungry and anxious to eat. So it actually can stimulate appetite for calorie consumption. There's a lot of very obese people out there that are still drinking the Diet Coke thinking it's going to help them lose weight, and it doesn't necessarily work.
But in terms of brain function?
Yeah, well, the glutamic acid, or the aspartic acid, and the formaldehyde are brain toxins.
Okay.
So it's destroying brain cells, or at least wounding them. So at least when the brain is wounded neurologically, it's affected. So
it stimulates
mentally.
the brain, but at the same time destroys cells?
Yeah, that's what the term excitotoxin means. It makes you wired. And of course, we know how MSG can make you really high, so can aspartic acid. So those are two excitatory amino acids among the 22 or so in the food, in the protein. But in the protein, it doesn't have the same effect because the amount of aspartic acid in a protein meal isn't all that much. And as it's being eaten, it's the inhibitory amino acids kind of mellow the whole situation down. So in protein, we're eating inhibitory amino acids at the same time as the excitatory amino acids, and so we don't have the same effect as eating pure glutamic acid or aspartic acid.
What about Splenda? That's supposed to be made from sugar.
Yeah, that's a scandal. Splenda, the generic name is sucralose. It's the industry, the food industry that named it, and they named it this sucralose. It's just a nice, smooth, delicious sounding name. It's actually trichlorinated sucrose. They took 3 chlorine atoms and substituted 3 hydroxyl groups on the sucrose molecule to make it nutritionally negative. There's no calories now when you add chlorine to carbon atoms, and in fact you've got a toxic substance. Chlorocarbon compounds are toxic substances. Many of them are known carcinogens. Chlorocarbon atoms include dioxin and 2,4-D and the pesticides. Many of the pesticides are chlorocarbon atoms. So we have this highly sweetened trichlorinated sucrose. Of course, they call it sucralose.
Sounds very unappetizing when you talk about it like that.
Oh, you wouldn't want to eat it. I went online to a Japanese pesticide company that sold it as a pesticide. It was sucralose. You could buy it sucralose, and it was a pesticide. So I emailed them wondering what's their evidence for it being a pesticide, and they never answered. And then I went back a few months ago, and it wasn't there anymore. I think I must have alerted them or something, or somehow they took it off the market, and maybe the Splenda Corporation in the United States said, "Hey, get that off here. That's not good news for us when it's used as a pesticide." Well, I proved it myself. In my garden, I had a infestation of black ants, just thousands of black ants in one corner of my garden, and I had been sent half a pound of Splenda. I think the Splenda companies mailed everybody an unwanted batch of it to test in the baking. They promote it for baking.
Okay,
it's heat
so
stable.
that's right, yes.
And I knew a little bit about it, so it sat in my pantry for a long time. So I took some of the Splenda and sprinkled it in where the ant hills were.
Yeah.
In one day, they were all dead.
They killed the ants.
Killed the ants in my garden.
Right.
So it's a pesticide. And I've had other people say that, tell me that.
Splenda is a
too, yeah.
pesticide.
Well, it's a chlorocarbon.
Okay.
atom, has no nutritional value. In fact, it's a toxic substance. Dr. Mercola alerted me to that. He has, if you go onto his mercola.com site, he talks about the dangerous chlorocarbon called Splenda. And so that's a good source to get the science behind it. But when you look at the molecular structure, you know that it's not good.
So you'd be better off eating sugar, drinking, but then sodas are sweetened with corn syrup.
Yeah, the high fructose corn syrup is an unhealthy thing too. Fructose is not used by the body, especially in high doses. Maybe small amounts are useful, but we don't have the enzyme systems to utilize it nutritionally. So it actually, apparently it can even contribute to diabetes. But high fructose corn syrup is just a cheaper sweetener. It's very sweet. They can make it from corn. They add sulfuric acid to the cornstarch. And then it eventually results in lots of fructose, which is very sweet. There's some fructose in fruit, so some is okay. But now it can be manufactured cheaper than sucrose, which comes from cane sugar or beet sugar. So it's an unhealthy form of sweetener also, although it is not synthetic. It's not really a synthetic chemical, because fructose is present in nature.
But these things are making sugar sound a lot more wholesome, just plain old sugar.
It's a known devil instead of an
devil.
unknown devil, and so I'd go with that. But sucrose breaks down into glucose too, so and our brain needs glucose, our body needs glucose. But when you talk about sweeteners, in order for our body to have a normal blood sugar, the blood only needs 2 teaspoons of glucose. 2 teaspoons of glucose, and you got a normal blood sugar.
Okay.
Coke has 10 teaspoons. Most of the pops have 10 teaspoons of sucrose in them. That's going to give you a hyperglycemia, an insulin response to drive the blood sugar down, might be overshoot, and now you're hypoglycemic and famished, and you got to eat something to overcome the temporary hypoglycemia. So it leads to all sorts of metabolic abnormalities, maybe even exhaustion of the insulin secreting ability of the pancreas. So we need to go with the known nutritional benefits of the food that's been around for a while. If we have a new food, that hasn't been around for a long time, don't eat it. If you can't pronounce the label on the food, don't eat it. Stay away from it.
Good advice.
Yeah.